just felt like we couldn't change was having one of the members of that post come up here and tell you the history of Veterans Day, something he's done for so many years. I think he could probably do it in his sleep. But please welcome from American Legion Post 5, the Adjutant, Mr. Darwin Newton.
Slight correction, post 40. You got close. Within 35 numbers of it. Again, my name is Darwin Newton. I am the current post adjutant for American Legion Post 40 here in Ashland City. It's an honor to be here today before you to give you just a brief history of how Veterans Day came about. And before I do that, brought this. I reached in my drawer to get my hat out this morning. This is my father's American Legion captain as he served in World War II. So I'm honored that I could represent him and our American Legion post as well. But let me give you just a little bit of history about Veterans Day. World War I, as you know, was known as our call of the war, the Great War, the war to end all wars. It had several names, but it officially ended with the Treaty of Versailles, which is in France and signed on June the 28th, 1918. If you do a little research and you go back to why these treaties were signed in Versailles, you have to go back into a lot of European conflicts that go back decades prior to World War I. And to make a long story short, it was basically the French people's payback to the Germans for having them sign the peace treaty in France. And it's a suburb of Paris, the southwestern side of Paris, and it's a beautiful place. A lot of fancy hotels, I assume, the way they talk, that the Allies and Germany stayed in during the signing of this peace treaty. But that's why and when and where that peace treaty was signed. It said the fighting ceased several months prior to the signing of this document, and the effect of the peace treaty went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And for that reason, November the 11th, 1918 is generally regarded as the signing of a peace to end the war, to end all wars, which we know did not take place. In November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed a day to be set aside for the commemoration called Armistice Day. And that's what I remember my parents calling this day. It was Armistice Day when I was growing up. To us in America, the reflection of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride, the heroism of those who died in this country's service, and with gratitude for victory, both because of the things from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given Americans to show our sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of nations. During the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, generally Veterans Day was observed on November the 11th, and then somewhere in the late 60s through the middle 70s, our federal government decided we needed several three-day weekends, and they pushed Veterans Day into being one of those three-day weekends. It really didn't work that well, so in 1978, then President Gerald Ford signed a proclamation that it would always be on November the 11th, the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month. Veterans Day continues to be observed, as I just said, on November the 11th. Regardless of what day of the week on which it falls, the restoration of the observance of Veterans Day, November the 11th, not only preserves the historical significance of this date, but helps focus attention on the important purpose of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor American veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. And that's why we're here today. I might say that at some point in time, we will have this celebration at our new Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park, which we tried to have today, but weather just will not let us do it for some reason or other. We haven't been able to for the last 2 or 3 years, but at some point in time, hopefully we can. But that in a short essence is why we're here, November the 11th, 11th hour, 11th day of the 11th month, to celebrate all those who have served in the military for the service to our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Darwin. And now I want to invite up a lady that has been so supportive of veterans since she's been in office and never fails to respond when we ask her for something. And I really appreciate all the help she's been to every veteran in this county. Please welcome our state representative, Miss Mary Littleton.
Good morning, everyone. Let's give all these people that made this possible today, let's give them a big hand as well. So I want to thank all of you for having me here today. It is a distinct honor to speak to you as we come together on Veterans Day to take time in recognition of those brave men and women who have dedicated their lives to the protection of our own and the freedoms that we hold dear. Their service is one of ultimate selflessness, one that we can and should be proud of. Our nation's servicemen and women remain vital to the United States' long-standing history as a presence of hope for the individual liberties that characterize our purpose as a country. The hope for prosperity and peace has called them to stand for their beliefs under our flag. The sacrifices made by those who have served our nation can never be fully repaid, but we can thank them immensely and show them the sincerity of their fellow citizens. With all the veterans that are here today, I won't ask you to stand because you're in steps, but can you at least raise your hand so that we can recognize you and thank you for your service? The same way in which we are thankful for all of our service members' sacrifices, we must not forget their families and loved ones that served in a way all of their own. Our nation's military families are to be as the strongholds of support that they are. Parents, grandparents, spouses, children, and everyone close to the member of our military at any point has had to carry a weight that we should all commend. The nights of prayer and the days of worry for the safety and the well-being of those they walk without each day. It's their own solemn oath to our nation. For those who do not see a safe return for their loved ones, we see you in the ultimate sacrifice that you have made. Our hearts are immeasurable gratitude are with you always. Families and friends of our service members, both past and present, we thank you for your sacrifices and enduring burdens that we may not know. Would each of you family members that have a serviceman or service person, would you raise your hand so we can recognize you as well? While today is specified for the recognition, it is our duty as an American citizen to not let this day be the only day of an entire year that we captivate ourselves to the service of those brave souls. As citizens of this great nation, I ask that each of you remember on all days of the year, our veterans should be greeted and with grateful hearts. Without each of you, our lives as we know them would not exist. May we all carry our regard for these dignified members of our country into our daily lives. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. To our veterans, I sincerely thank you for your service and your sacrifices. May God bless each and every one of you. May God bless the state of Tennessee and the United States of America. And thank you for letting me be here today.
Thank you, Mary. As you will notice as we go through this program, there are a number of veterans groups in this county. We have the American Legion Post, we have the United States Veterans Alliance, we have the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and we have the Vietnam Veterans of America. All have local chapters. And if you're a veteran and you're not a member of one or more of those groups, you're missing out. Those are the guys that, through their connections in Washington, stand up for veterans' rights, freedoms. They're the ones that kept pushing and pushing and pushing until the PACT Act was passed. You may hear a little more about that later on from our Veterans Service Office. Right now, I'd like to bring up a fellow that I've known for quite some time, and he has always been at the forefront of one of the veterans organizations or another, and he is right now the VVA Chapter 1129 President. Please welcome Mr. Walter Weekly.
Thank you, Harold. For those that don't know about the Vietnam Veterans of America, we were founded with the principle that no veteran ever will be abandoned but with our organization. I want to tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to be here with the veteran brothers and sisters, and what a great thing it is. At times, the veterans may harass a different organization. If you're with the Army, you harass the Navy or Marines, Air Force, or vice versa. But when things got tough and you needed support, you were always glad that they were there. You know, we veterans are an elite bunch of folks. Only 7.3% of the total population are veterans, and I am certainly proud to be one of them. No matter when you served, we were the best America had, and I think we're still the best America has. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. And now another veterans group is going to be recognized. I'm going to ask the president of our local VFW chapter, Mr. John Nichols, to come up and say a few words as well.
Thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you being here today. And again, we hope one day that we can have our Veterans Day ceremony up at our Veterans Park. The weather just didn't hold out for us. I'm the commander of the VFW Post 6181. And as already been stated, every one of our organizations needs support. We need members. We need those people that can be involved to be involved. If we don't stay involved as veterans, then those organizations will disappear, and a lot of the support that we get and a lot of legislation that we see occur won't happen. And so we invite each and every one of you that are veterans to at least be a member of one of these groups, whether it's the VFW, the VBA, the USVA, or the American Legion. Show your support for those organizations and help them out. Our next meeting, as far as the VFW, will be on November 22nd at 6 p.m. at the David McCullough Center, the room up at the annex, the county annex. But anyway, try to participate in at least one of those organizations so that we can continue to support the veterans And again, thank you for being here. We appreciate your attendance and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And not to be outdone, we have yet another organization that's going to be represented. I would like to ask Mr. Clay Walden to get up. He's a member of the United States Veterans Alliance, which is particular to Cheatham County only. This is a group that is formed right here in the county, supporting veterans. Don't have to be a veteran. You can be anyone that supports veterans, and they welcome all. Y'all still meeting the first Monday at the Senior Center, or is it Tuesday now? Second Monday? Okay. Second Monday, they meet at the Senior Center. If you want to join them there, they would love to have you come by and join that organization. As John said, the VFW is meeting they always meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month. And on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, the Vietnam Veterans of America meet at the same David McCullough room. So any of you veterans so inclined, we'd love to have you show up at one or two of those meetings and see if it looks like a good fit for you. So right now I'm going to bring Mr. Clay Walden up from the United States Veterans Alliance.
I retired here a couple of years ago, and the first group I joined was the U.S. Veterans Alliance. And if you will, at this time, the veterans and their wives raise your hand in the group. Now, it's a family group, and I certainly appreciate being with y'all for the last probably 5, 9, 7 years, somewhere along in there. It's been a pleasure to be with that group, and it's also a pleasure to be with all the veterans here in Cheatham County. I think we need to recognize them all. That has been one of my main goals in life, to recognize our veterans, and I'm so proud of Cheatham County. Last night I was down at Pleasant View, and I was really surprised at the crowd that showed up to support the veterans there, and to include men and women in this audience right now. I also read in the Cheatham County Exchange where the Clark and Pegram is getting an uplift in it. They're changing. They're going to ask for additional names for the veterans from that area to be put on the wall down there. And it's just so rewarding when you hear stuff like that what the community is doing for the veterans. Okay, now having said that, I'm proud to have served in the greatest armed forces in the world. And I've served with so many professional veterans during my 26 years of active duty service. We were just ordinary young men and ordinary young women from different backgrounds and all over America and in their territories that served in the armed forces with us. I am a proud son of a U.S. Navy veteran from World War II, such as Darrell said here. Those veterans didn't tell us a whole lot what went on during their families, and I'm sure we got quite a few people out here that their fathers was in World War II. Mine didn't. I was born out in Modesto, California, when he was in the Navy, and I might have said we ought to leave California and come back to Tennessee. Modesto is known for Gallo wine. In the Army, I guess we didn't make a lot of money, so some of you may remember Gallo wine and Boone's Farm and all that. We'll just leave it at that on that. Move on with my notes. It was uphill balance, uphill climb for me. Knowing my father had a problem, he was in Aleutian Islands, and he ended up in the hospital out at Shoemaker about the time I was born, and it sort of left some feelings on me after I retired to go back and see what happened. So I've been doing research, and I found out the last few months he was in the hospital. I stayed there for quite a few months. My time in service, I know what you veterans went through. I went through basic training, Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It was something that I hadn't done before. I thought I knew everything, and the Army told me I didn't, and it come off all my hair. Some of you had that experience also. My advanced training, which is occupational training for different veterans, different areas. You know, you could be in the infantry, field artillery, or in the ordnance or something like that. Mine was ordnance. I was recovering in back. They thought I had a small head and big body, that I could handle recovering of tanks and wheeled vehicles and stuff like that. Some of it was pleasant, some of it was not. You get out there pulling that old cable out, a couple of 100 foot in mud, whether you go out, the heavier it got. You know, so then you're hungry, and the weather in different parts of the world is something else too. I've got this jacket on. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All my Union Crests are on the back of it. Some of the units I've served with is a 46 Surgical Hospital, a MASH unit. That turned around Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. Spent a few years in field artillery, so I have a variety with some of y'all where you served. I had supply and transportation. Served in Germany. We had some great tourist attractions over there. Some of you have probably been to Grafenwehr and all those training sites you won't forget about. Baltic and Vilsack and Farm Sale. Had 5 hardship tours, so I know what that means to a veteran tonight. But I want to thank you for your service on this. I served in Vietnam, Georgia, North Yemen, Desert Storm, and Korea. I come out of the service and I started doing research, and in that research I've had the opportunity to go to the DC Mall a couple of times, and that's a sight to see. If you haven't been there, you need to go see. I made it up to Warrant Officer Corps in the service. I met a E5 sergeant, and he was trying to help me with the names there, and he said, "You better go back and study." Believe me, you know what I did. I went back and studied the problems that my unit had. I was able to attend the 50th anniversary of our base and the 50th anniversary of our 1st Signal Brigade. I've been honored to go on the Screaming Eagle Honor Flight. It's been so good to me after I retired. The community has. I've joined, as I mentioned, U.S. Veterans Alliance over there. I've joined CHIGA, Cheatham County Genealogy History Association, the VBA, and then I'm doing research on helping get the names of the park, and I think I've talked long enough. I appreciate it. Thanks, Ed.
I never seen him wind down that fast. Kind of strange. I wasn't quite ready for that. Let me bring up the fellow that every veteran in the county ought to know on a first name basis. If you don't, you need to. He's your Veteran Service Officer for Cheatham County, Mr. Lloyd Sharp.
Oh, wow. I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, but I'm going to try to keep it shorter, okay? So, thank you, Harold. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. It is an honor to do what I do and continue my service to the public and continue to serve my brothers and sisters in arms. For those who may not know me, I am your County Service Officer, and my name is Lloyd Sharp. I am a combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan and spent nearly 11 years on active duty in the United States Army. I've been told numerous times, several times, and Lisa Ware can attest to this, we didn't know your office existed. So I wanted to tell you real quick that your VSO is here. We do exist. We're here to help you file claims for disability benefits, pension benefits, and health care, anything that has to do with the VA. We're here for surviving spouses, veterans, children of veterans. Please come see us. It's what we're here for. We have issues with advertising. So with this being such a small rural county, word of mouth is our advertising, right? So veterans come see us. They say, hey, we went and saw them. They really helped us out. Pass the word along. Please come see us. As Harold had mentioned earlier, the PACT Act was just passed. For those who do not know what it is, it greatly expands benefits for post 9/11 veterans due to burn pit exposures and toxins exposures. Also, Agent Orange exposure to Vietnam era veterans that served in Thailand. In the United States, Veterans Day falls on November 11th, the anniversary of the signing of the armistice which ended World War I, hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany. In Cheatham County, this day has been properly commemorated without fail every year, and we would not let this year be different. No matter what differences there may be between us, we all take pause today, united in our cause, to honor those who have so bravely defended our freedoms. For those of us who have lost someone in service to this great nation, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge your loss. They say those of us who have seen war never stop seeing it. We carry the unseen wounds of the battlefield along with the memories of our fallen comrades. For those who have served wearing the cloth of our nation, they were drawn from the full tapestry of American life. They were generals and privates, captains and corporals, petty officers and commanders of every race, color, and creed, but we were all brothers and sisters in arms, united by our undying love of country and each other. What we do with this great gift of the service that veterans have given is today an opportunity to renew our conviction to live worthy lives, to pursue our aspirations, and to continue to serve others. We will do so in their honor, and we will never forget. Thank you, and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Lloyd. And now we are honored to have this year from Pleasant View Christian School, a choral group who's going to sing us a couple of great patriotic songs. So when they all get out here and we've got them gathered up, we'll give them a big round of applause and get them all pumped up and start singing.
Hello, my name is Michael Moon, and this is the Pleasant View Christian School Choir. Today we will be performing God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood, and I'd like to thank all our veterans who have served for our country. Just my family and my life. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave their lives to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Well, what can you say? What can you say? Oh my goodness. Doggone it. It is just wonderful to know that we live in such a place that we have youth like this that are willing and able to come out and celebrate the nation's veterans. There's a lot of places where that doesn't happen. You know, there's a group of veterans that don't often get recognized or mentioned, and they're among us every day. And there are guys that, in this case, are still serving their country by serving their community. And the veterans that I'm talking about are those that are in our local law enforcement. I'd like to ask any of those members to please stand when I call your name, because I got your name here. And you can't blame me, you can blame Misty at the Chamber of Commerce. She's the one that got it all together for me. So, Mr. Randall Smith, Mr. Phil Horan, Mr. Ryan Creech, Mr. David Diaz, Mr. Dale Smith, Mr. Gene McCollum, Mr. Chris Gilmore, Mr. Jacob Brumfield, Mr. Shane Mattingly, Mr. Kenneth Cook, and here's where it gets a little testy, I may not pronounce these correctly, Mr. Joseph Cellini, I hope that's right, Mr. Tyler Virgenti, and Julio, I apologize, but I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this one right for sure, Julio Gautreaux, I would say, close, Gautreaux. I bet he wrestles alligators. And Mr. Dwight Porter. Any of you folks that are here, thank you. God bless you. We appreciate your service to the country, and we appreciate your service to the county. Now, these veterans have received numerous medals, honors, and awards during their time in service. We're excited to have them here today and honored that they chose to be here with us today to help remember that this is Veterans Day, and veterans that are serving are still serving, maybe not in the uniform they used to wear, but in this case, the uniform of our local law enforcement. So be aware, you've got some great guys out there on the streets, and they got your back. Right now, I'd like to, let me thank Misty again for getting all that together for me. Or blame her again, I don't know how we want to say that, but whatever. Anyway, I couldn't have done it without her help, and I do appreciate that. I want to bring up a fellow that some of you may know, and everybody ought to know. I mean, really, you should. This guy's the county mayor, and he's one of the biggest supporters of veterans you'll ever find. Please welcome my friend, Mr. Kerry McCarver.
Thank you. Good morning. I've ended most of the speeches I've given as mayor with these words. May God forever bless Cheatham County, the great state of Tennessee, and the United States of America. Standing among so many veterans today and their friends and family, I am reminded just how God's protective hand has covered our county, our state, our country. How blessed we truly are. A few weeks ago, a woman shared with me the story of her veteran father. And with her permission, this morning, I want to share her story with you. Recently, for the first time, this aging veteran shared with his daughter his experience in Vietnam. She told me that growing up, she at times feared her father. For no apparent reason, he could become angry at her and her mother. Family walked on eggshells to keep peace in the house. In a few years, the couple separated, then divorced. She thought her father had never been afraid of anything, but he told her that he was terrified every second he was in Vietnam. He told her that the rain on his tin roof took him back to the warm, humid rains of Vietnam. He told her about the crippling burden of night watch. He was once again an 18-year-old boy from Tennessee, halfway around the world. One night he heard a noise, like a stick breaking. Thought maybe it's an animal. But when he heard it the second time, he detonated explosives into the blind night of the surrounding jungle. At dawn, he found the remains of an enemy soldier at the edge of that camp. He told her about snakes that looked like bamboo. Their venom could kill a man within minutes. He told her that incoming artillery fragments injured his eye and lodged in his back. He prayed that would be enough to send him home. But you know what? They sewed him up and sent him back to duty. He told her that after a battle, his job was to clear the field. 149 of our soldiers lay dead. The lone survivor had hidden under a fellow soldier's body as the battle raged. This soldier told his daughter how he and others gathered the fallen, how he loaded the bodies onto a transport to send them home for proper burial. He had locked these memories and hundreds of other terrors inside for over 55 years. On that day, for the first time in her life, this daughter saw her daddy cry. And now at the age of 43, she has a new understanding, a new love for her daddy. The veterans here with us today answered the call to serve the United States. Each one sacrificed to spare their loved ones and fellow countrymen the brutalities of war. When they returned home, many never spoke about what they saw or what they felt. It's interesting, though, when you watch a gathering of veterans, there's a bond there. Oh, it's a true brotherhood. Veterans often seem to light up when you get several of them together, whether it's over a project like the incredible Veterans Memorial Park up on the hill outside of town, or just over a cup of coffee. Perhaps it is the bond of the brotherhood that only veterans, especially those who have been on the battlefield, that have lived, survived, and understand. We civilians can never fully partake, never fully understand. And for that, we can never thank them enough. And because of our veterans, I say again, with renewed understanding and appreciation, may God forever bless Cheatham County, the great state of Tennessee, and the United States of America.
Thank you, Carrie. Always inspirational and always love to have you here. I do want to remember a group of World War II veterans a little later in our program because they are fading into obscurity, as you know. But right now, there's another fellow you need to know. He's working in the background all the time, trying to build things up in Cheatham County, build up the tax base so we don't have to pay so much property tax and so forth. Please welcome the Economic Development Director, Jerome Harrell.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and gosh, I followed the wonderful music after that, and Mayor McCarver, so let me see if I can throw some jokes or something in there. But I do appreciate being here. I appreciate John Nichols asking me. I appreciate my name being on the wall at the memorial because John Nichols made a statement at one of the city council meetings that he wanted his great-grandchildren to know that what he had been involved with as a man, and I had never even thought about my name being on anything, and did that, and thank you, John. You handled that all the way through. You got it done for me and everything, so I appreciate that. But what does economic development and veterans, service in the community. What does that have to do with each other? Well, I'll step back a little bit, and on Wednesday morning, April 30th, 1969, my dad dropped me off at the corner of 8th Avenue and West End, or Broadway, and about half a block off of the corner there was the induction center, and I made my step forward, and I was in the U.S. Army, loaded on a bus, wasn't sure where I was going, had no clue, and ended up at Fort Campbell, and then still had no clue for months, but did go to artillery training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So what I was doing was fire direction control, which is the mechanism to tell people where to put the bullets and the guns. But we were a nuclear division, and so I had a portion of a number system that I would meet with 3 other people that I did not know in the event that we had an actual live situation, and we would open that, get the nuclear stuff, and take it with us. I'm making it kind of dumbed down, nuclear stuff, but that's what we did. And the thing that it was impressive to me that whole time is I had every bit of confidence that we would do what we were supposed to do. We did an alert every month. We didn't know when that was coming. We had to load up, get that, drive to some point, listen for call missions, fire missions go down. But our main spot that we were to guard and to manage was the Fulda Gap. And the Fulda Gap was a natural gap area that was in the lowlands where the folks from the east part of Europe could easily get through, cross the Rhine River right at that point, and be in Frankfurt. So that was our responsibility, was to guard that. Never thought too much about it until actually 9/11, which affected this country in a really interesting way all the way around, and it made people realize, that we are susceptible to things, and there's things going on right now, that are worrying us. But I want to say, from my experience in the military and afterwards, looking back at the military, we're trained for that. We know what we're doing. We have people that are running and managing things that are very, very good, and the system probably will not fail in any capacity at all, because it's been gone over and over and over and over again. So, I appreciate the veterans, what they did. I did not go to Vietnam. I was fortunate to be in Germany. However, I have 2 friends that didn't make it back from there. One of them I didn't know was surely a loss until I saw it on the Vietnam Wall in Washington. So there's a lot of things that we need to be proud of. There's a lot of sadness that we need to consider and think about, and bravery. But the thing that I continue to think about the most is that the U.S. is strong. We're ready. We have veterans that prove that in what they do every day, and think back and look back on it. If you visit any facilities anywhere, you'll see it, but you won't see it all, because they're doing it every day without thinking about it, and it's just a way of life. So I've kind of rambled on. Sorry about that, but I did want to put that out there, that I'm very proud of what I was able to do, which didn't affect anybody here, but I felt it, and the people that were around me feel it. I still talk to my battery commander about once every 2 months. That's been a long time ago. That's amazing. But anyway, I did want to say that I appreciate being here, and I'm proud to be a veteran, and I'm proud of all our veteran friends. Thank you.
As I said a little bit earlier, I want to remember especially today our World War II veterans. We're losing them so fast. That the Great War, as they called it, was one to, as they said, end all wars. Unfortunately, as we've seen since then, that wasn't the case. If we have any World War II veterans in the audience, would you please raise your hand? Well, I recognize this guy over here. I recognize this guy. Mr. Simpkins, if I'm not mistaken, there's about 27 of us 29 years ago that started the Veterans of Foreign Wars post here in Cheatham County. I was honored to be the first commander of that post. And Mr. Simpkins and I think we may be the only ones of the original group that are still hanging around here making noise. I did find out that the other day, Mike Burke was kind enough to give me the word He said Mr. Simpkins is just upset because he's been wearing his VFW ball cap for 29 years now, and it's about wore out. So we're happy to give him a brand new life member VFW Post 6181 hat today. And I want you to know, Mr. Simpkins, we've got your official hat ordered. It'll take about 2 months, but we'll get that to you sometime the end of January or February. Thank you. And thanks for still being here. I don't want to be all alone in this, you know. We got some great guys in it now, but we had some great guys in it then, too. We've lost a lot of them, but doggone it. Glad to have you here. Thank you, sir. Now, there's a group of World War II veterans. Oh, okay. 9 Okay, and we want to see you back here next year. So, we want to be part of the downhill slide to 100 there. So, next year we'll be looking for you. I want to read this because I don't want to miss any of these things. They were once the most universally admired and revered men in the United States. There were 80 of them. In 1942, they carried out one of the most courageous and heart-stirring missions and military operations in this nation's history. The mere mention of their unit's name in those years would bring tears to the eyes of grateful Americans. After Japan's sneak attack on Pearl Harbor, with the United States reeling and wounded, something dramatic was needed to turn that tide of war around. Even though there were no friendly airfields close enough to Japan for the United States to launch any retaliation, there was a daring plan that was devised. 16 B-52 bombers were modified so that they could take off from the deck of an aircraft carrier. This had never been tried before, sending such a big, heavy bomber from a carrier. The 16 five-man crews under the command of Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle, who himself flew the lead plane off the USS Hornet, they knew that they would not be able to return to that carrier once they flew off. They would have to hit Japan and then hope to make it to China for a safe landing. But on the day of the raid, the Japanese military caught wind of that plan, and the raiders were told that they would have to take off from much further out in the Pacific Ocean than they had counted on. They were told that because of this, they would not have enough fuel to make it to safety. And all of them went anyway. They bombed Tokyo and then flew back as far as they could. 4 planes crash landed. 11 more of the crews bailed out. 3 of the raiders died on the mission. 8 more were captured. 3 were executed. Another one died of starvation in a Japanese prison camp. 1 crew made it to Russia. The Doolittle Raiders sent a message from the United States to its enemies and the rest of the world. We will fight. No matter what it takes, we will win. Of the 80 raiders, 62 survived the war. They were celebrated as national heroes, models of bravery. Metro-Goldwyn Mayer produced a motion picture based on that raid, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, starring Spencer Tracy and Van Johnson. As a patriotic and emotional box office hit, and the phrase became part of the national lexicon. In the movie theater previews for this film, MGM proclaimed that it was presenting that story with supreme pride. Beginning in 1946, the surviving Raiders held a reunion every April to commemorate that mission. The reunion was in a different city each year, and in 1969, the city of Tucson, Arizona, as a gesture of respect and gratitude, presented the Doolittle Raiders with a set of 80 silver goblets. Each goblet was engraved with the name of one of the Raiders. Every year, a wooded display case bearing all 80 goblets is transported to the city the reunion is held in. Each time a Raider passes away, his goblet is turned upside down in the case. at the next reunion, as his old friends bear solemn witness. Also in the wooden case is a bottle of 1896 Hennessy Very Special Cognac. The year is not happenstance. 1896 is when Jimmy Doolittle was born. There had always been a plan that when there were only 2 surviving raiders, they would open that bottle, at last take a drink from it, and toast their comrades who had preceded them in death. As 2013 began, there were 5 living raiders left. Then in February, Tom Griffin passed away at age 96. What a man he was. After bailing out his plane over a mountainous Chinese forest after the Tokyo raid, he became ill with malaria and almost died. When he recovered, he was sent to Europe to fly more combat missions. He was shot down, captured, and spent 22 months in a German prisoner of war camp. The selflessness of these men, the sheer guts. There was a passage of time in the Cincinnati Enquirer obituaries from Mr. Griffin that on the surface had nothing to do with the war, but was more emblematic of the depths of his sense of duty and devotion. When his wife became ill and needed to go to the nursing home, he visited her every day. He walked from his house to the nursing home, fed his wife, and at the end of the day, brought home her clothes. At night, he washed them and ironed them, and he walked them up to her room the next morning. He did that for 3 years until the day of her death in 2005. So now, out of the original 80, only 4 raiders remained. Dick Cole, who was Doolittle's co-pilot on the raid, Robert Height, Edward Saylor, and David Thatcher. All are in their 90s, and in 2019, they decided that there were too few of them for the public reunions to continue. The events in Fort Walton Beach marked the end of it. It's come full circle, since Florida's nearby Eglin Air Force Base was where the raiders trained in secrecy for that Tokyo mission. The town planned to do all they could to honor those men as a 6-day celebration of their valor, including luncheons, dinner, and a parade was held. Did the men ever wonder if those of us for whom they helped save the country have tended to it in a way that's worthy of their sacrifice? The men have decided that after that final public reunion, they would wait until a later date, and that sometime later that year they'd get together once more informally and in absolute privacy, and that is when they would open the bottle of brandy. The years were flowing by too swiftly then, and they were not going to wait until there was only 2 of them. They would fill their 4 remaining goblets, turn them up, and raise them in a toast to all those that are gone. Dick Cole was the last to go in April of 2019. It was said after his passing, the last raider has slipped the surly bonds of earth and is reunited with his fellow raiders. Their legacy will live forever in the hearts and minds of all service members and the public, even long after we've departed. Let's not forget those brave men and the mission they flew. Just a few of the many thousands of Americans who put their lives on hold and on the line for our freedom. Today we celebrate their service to our country and their many, many sacrifices. May God bless our veterans. As we approach the end of this ceremony, I do have some last-minute announcements that I do want to make for everybody. First of all, I want to wish a happy birthday to the United States Marines who celebrated their 247th birthday yesterday. It was the only service my family didn't cover. I had one brother in the Army, one brother in the Navy, one in the Air Force. I was in the Army. We ran out of brothers before we got to the Marines. And I grew up in a Navy town. Boy, it was gray everywhere. 3 miles from the Navy base and 2 miles to another base. And so, of course, I joined the Army. So I didn't think I looked good in gray, but it turned out I didn't look that good in green either. Whatever. I want to note to everybody that all veterans and their families are invited to go over and have a lunch at the library. The folks, Amanda Bell and the At Home Realty folks, have been kind enough to provide that again this year. So please take advantage of that and let them know that you appreciate it. Just go in the main floor of the library and you'll see the way and smell the food when you get there. So I do want to tell you about that. I also want to thank Bill Garrett from Bill Garrett Realty and Josh from one of the guitar teachers, I understand, from the Guitar Center at Rivergate for providing our sound system for us today. We really appreciate their help in getting this here and getting it set up for us. I also want to remind everybody there's a number of these outfits that are doing things for veterans. I know Applebee's has a special menu today. Veterans can get a free meal at Applebee's off of that menu. And for those of you who are big fans of Golden Corral, they will be giving a free meal to veterans on Monday the 14th from 5 p.m. to close. So take advantage of those and let those people know that you really appreciate that they're remembering veterans too. Now I want to read you, before we leave, the last 4 lines of a poem that was written by Henry Hayden. Just like the Raiders, the Civil War, at the end of the Civil War, there was a Civil War Survivors Club that started, much the same way as the Doolittle Raiders. This poem was written for them, for their last Survivors Club, to be read by the very last survivor. Words that are appropriate today, remembering all who paid that ultimate price. These are the last 4 lines, and it really says so much. The campfire smolders, the ashes fall. The clouds are black against the sky. No taps, no drums, no bugle call. My comrade call, goodbye. Jerry, if you'd like to get up here, please, and sing us, kind of sing us a song.
This song is over 85 years old, and it is a prayer that has been answered by every veteran and family that has, is, or will serve. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us all be thankful for a land that's free. Let us pledge allegiance to a land that's fair as we lift our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairie, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, America. God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, from the mountains to the prairie, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home.
Mr. Simpkins, you'll remember this too. We had a fellow that was one of the original members. They used to call him the Mayor of Little May, Mr. Jim Allen. Lived over on River Road, and I'm extremely proud. After last year's ceremony, Jim's son came up and asked me if we'd like him to play taps for us next year. And I said, golly, Chris, I'd love for you to play taps. And so after we have our closing prayer, Mr. Chris Allen is going to play taps for us. Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us gather in a place today that honors their veterans. We thank you for letting us be amongst those of us who still feel that fire in our heart, that love in our soul for the country that we call home. We ask that you watch over all of those here today and take them safely back home after they leave here. We ask that people in the country never forget the sacrifices that were made by veterans through all generations in service to their country. Amen.
Amen.
Chris?